Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Field Notes Friday on a Saturday. So yesterday really got away with me, backwards and forwards, and just I hit a threshold of I shall stop clicking there. I hit a bit of a threshold of overwhelm and had to take a breath and lean into my own coaching for myself. It has been an amazing few days, a few weeks, and I couldn't be more grateful for what is going on right now. But yesterday it did hit me a little bit. So I had to, like I say, take a pause, reflect, and just give myself a moment to come back below threshold. And I'm back now, which is great. So welcome to the live. And like I say, it is a Saturday, not a Friday. If you're new here, or this is the first time you've joined me live, just to let you know that each week, usually on a Friday morning, I will go live and talk about things that have happened to me, to the herd, or the environment that has created any shifts, etc. A lot of things have happened to me, but one of the things that I asked at the beginning of the week was 2 words that summed up, which is really difficult, I know, how you were feeling and how you perceived your horse. And one of the words that came up, which was really interesting to me, was curious. And curiosity, I think, is fundamental in any learning, and particularly for our horses. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit more about that in more depth than the post that I've put up, and about how curiosity is linked with confidence, but also what lies beneath that. So as we have been exploring this, and as all these words came up, and how curiosity or curious was quite a theme, curiosity has been one of the foundation starting points of all my coaching, not only for our horses, but also for the humans within that relationship, and exploring that relationship between curiosity and confidence. And we spoke about, or in the post, we've touched on how curiosity builds safety, and how the hippocampus, that little part of the brain, helps file those experiences away. And this is something that we share with our horses. It happens both within the human experience as well as in the equine experience. And again, if we can lean into some of the things that we share, the horses don't appear to be so alien or so out of reach of our understanding. But today I want to go a little bit deeper, like I said, and I want to explore what happens when that curiosity is blocked, and how that affects long-term confidence, and why sometimes what looks like a spook or resistance or something that we might label as bad behaviour is really a memory, not of an object in itself. And let's take the plastic bag, because that is a very common point of reference for everybody, but of how that moment was handled when they first encountered the plastic bag or whatever object. So when we talk about curiosity, whether it is blocked or versus completed, and how that is going to affect how our horses view the world, how they perceive the world, the domestic world that we're offering them. So when a horse starts to investigate, there's something in our being that worries about that, and we tend to shut it down. we pull them past it, or we try to distract them or mask that behavior. And when we do that, what we're doing is keeping the loop open. So as they've gone to investigate, and the rewilding coaching is all about a circular learning, so observation, reflection, how we are responding back to reflection and then back to observation. It's all about circular, because this is how our horses learn. And this is how our horses build confidence. So when we break that loop, break that cycle, we are leaving a missing section, and they can't bridge it to the next point. So just going back to a little bit of science, not to overdo it, but it's important to have some awareness. The hippocampus, this part of our brains that is significant for memory, etc., doesn't store that experience as safe if it is interrupted. Instead, it files it away as unresolved. And an unresolved memory can resurface again and again, and sometimes years later in completely different contexts. And this is when we think, out of the blue, my horse XYZ. And it isn't. It's because whoever, you or previous life experiences with a different human being, have left the door open, have not completed the loop, not completed the conversation about that particular object or that moment that is very similar to what you're experiencing now. And that's why two horses may react completely differently to the same scary object. One was allowed to resolve it and the other one wasn't. There's quite a bit of generalization in this because it is a very deep and very complex subject, but it gives you an idea of the baseline to start from when we're thinking about horses that are going through this. So what are the layers beneath that spook, that reaction, or that unwanted behavior? So going back to the plastic bag, because like I say, it's really familiar for us all. When a horse is spooking at that plastic bag, it's not necessarily reacting. They are not necessarily reacting at the bag itself. They could be reacting to a memory of being rushed past something before that was very similar that they can connect to. And this brings on a heightened state in their body that makes their world feel unsafe. Every time we rush, every time we push back, every time we don't allow that conversation to complete. It also allows space for them to store an association. Like we've spoke a lot over the last few weeks about their sensory sensitivity, so sound, smell, light, etc., that links them to a past unresolved moment. Don't take any notice of my fingernails. Jesus, I just realised I should have done those before I came on. Anyway, and this is where, going back, I digress, this is where it goes deeper than just behaviour. And when we assign it as a behaviour, sometimes I think we try and fix, which is a word I really don't recommend using. I hate using that word, but it is a common word that we use. But we try and resolve a behaviour when it is actually not a behaviour. It is a memory of an uncompleted conversation. So what we see on the outside, so the shy, the spin, the snort, etc., is often just the tip of the iceberg. And beneath that, like I say, is a history of interrupted curiosity. And this is where we can start linking that to confidence, particularly through co-experience. So how can we help? We don't just expose them to the object again and again. The mechanical process of desensitization is something that bothers me to a degree, because it is all about desensitizing them to a point where we see they accept, but don't necessarily allow the understanding, and that still is an open loop for curiosity for the completion of the conversation. So we can offer what I like to call co-experience, and what that means is staying present long enough for them to finish their investigation. Again, matching their rhythm. I talk about rhythm a lot, and rhythm is hugely important when we're asking a horse to understand something that is basically alien to their nature. We're asking them to understand a domestic object in a domestic situation, and for them to resolve it within their sensory sensitivities and in their emotional thresholds, and make sure that their emotional resilience has the capacity for it. And we can do this by allowing the retreat and return. So this desensitization, the mechanics of desensitization doesn't usually allow the retreat and return. It is all about the moment and doing and doing and doing until we get a moment of relaxation or a lick and a chew, which again is a calming signal, and it could be saying, okay, I'll just accept it for now if you just leave me alone. And then the loop is still open. So allowing the retreat and return allows the confidence to grow, not just from the horse being curious, but from knowing their curiosity will be understood, and that you're aware of their need for it. That changes the memory that gets stored. So it's not just a case of all of a sudden the plastic bag is safe, but we are allowing them to understand that their curiosity also is safe. That curiosity is an expression that we feel comfortable for them to express. And we are not going to shut it down, and we're not going to push past it, because we are fearful of what may come after the curiosity. And that is far more powerful in the long run than mechanical desensitization. But how can we integrate this into our daily conversations that we have with our horses, our dialogues, and make sure that it is bilateral? So curiosity is never just about the object. It's about the process. It's about the memory that gets written into the body and the brain. And I mentioned this on a comment not that long ago, but if you have not read The Body Keeps the Score, it's nothing to do with horses, but it has a lot to do with horses in the sense that it talks a lot about how trauma and experiences get registered in our body, and then something will trigger us, and we forget the memory, we forget the experience, and push it back and push it back and push it back, and then one day we're triggered, and it's that memory that is coming back to the surface because our bodies keep the score, which is the title of the book. And I really recommend reading it, because like I say, although it is not horse centered, it's not about horses, but it is the information in it is very relevant to how horses also remember experiences, etc. So as the memory is written into the body and the brain, and again that takes me back into another key part of the work that I do, and that is that mind-body connection. And it is part of why I always say curious mind and an open heart. Because when we walk with our horse's curiosity, instead of interrupting it, you end up building a foundation of confidence that shows up everywhere, not just with spooky objects, but in a general being, in a general ability to experience new things within our domestic world. So what I would love to do is hear from you, and particularly if you can think of a time when your horse's curiosity was interrupted and it came back later as a bigger reaction, or certainly as a surprise because you didn't realize. Or maybe even the opposite, when you gave them that space to be curious and saw that confidence grow, and keeping them in a learning conversation that had that was completed. Because really, that is where the real strength is in our partnerships and in our relationships, is allowing conversations to complete, allowing your horse or even the people in your life complete what they need to say. And on a very personal note, when I was younger, even now, sometimes I can't find words. Sometimes the way that my neurospiciness shows up is that I will just lose every word in my brain. And particularly when I was younger, people would try and help me out of the goodness of their heart and fill the sentences in for me. And it wasn't what I was going to say. And the frustration was enormous, and it silenced me because I couldn't deal with the frustration. I couldn't deal with that. Rage is a big word, but when you're a little girl and you can't find the word, that's how I felt. And that's how our horses are feeling when we don't allow that conversation to complete. So curiosity does build confidence when we allow that. So please do allow it. And like I say, I would love to hear from you if you have any comments. That's all for Saturday. Hopefully next week I will be back in on Friday, and have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week, which is a really nice place to be, I think. Take care and have a wonderful weekend. Stay curious, and let your horses stay curious too. Bye for now. Much love.